As a lender and also a real estate investor, I get asked constantly about setting up LLCs. Now, I'm not an attorney. I can't practice law, so technically I can't come in and set up an LLC for you. But I can sure as heck tell you what we do when we set up an LLC because honestly, we do it ourselves because we don't have other partners. There's a lot of times, though, you're going to need an attorney. And we will use them if we're partnering with someone else. I should say, if we have more than one member to the LLC in addition to ourselves, we'll definitely use an attorney then. But normally we set them up ourselves. But what we're best known for as a lender is actually lending money to real estate investors. And usually that comes in the form of either an S Corp or more commonly an LLC. So I'm going to tell you a couple things in this video. Number one, how do we set up our own LLCs? And I'm going to use the state of Florida, which is our home state where we set everything up as an example, but it's pretty much the same in all states. And secondly, for our lending company, what do we require real estate investors to collect when we're doing a loan for their LLC? Pretty straightforward, and we're going to get into that right now. So the very first thing that we ask for is the articles of organization. Now, the articles, which we'll get into a moment, are simply just showing that, hey, you filed with it's a legal looking document, but to be honest, all it says is you filed, right? Secondly, we're going to ask you to go over to the IRS website and get an EIN number, a tax ID number. So it's kind of like the Social Security number for a business. And we're going to ask for that information as well. Third, comes along with the articles of organization is a certificate of standing. Usually it's just a fee that you pay, maybe $5-10 to the state that says, yep, you can operate in the state, all's good. And then finally, the most complex document, which really you need to think about getting an attorney to draft, and that's the operating agreement. Good fences build good neighbors. And that's where multiple people that are in an LLC come to an agreement about the powers that they have, the amounts that they own, and believe it or not, most importantly, because most people don't get married thinking they're going to get divorced. But in LLCs, almost worse than divorce rates. So many of them break up because one person's not pulling their weight. The operating agreement is going to talk about dissolution, how it's all wound down. So let's go through these, how we set them up, maybe talk a little more detail about what you're going to see. So we're going to start with the first one, which is really the articles of organization. And we're going to show you the screens from a place called sunbiz.org, sunbiz.org. That is the Department of Corporations, the Secretary of State Department. It's where you kind of research companies and see who owns them, how to set up this right online. It's very, very simple to do. You pay your fees, put in some information. It's pretty straightforward. So you can always go to sunbiz.org, and the first thing you want to do is to search and make sure that somebody isn't already using the name that you're planning on using. So go ahead and click on that page where that red arrow shows and put in the search XYZ LLC or whatever your name is and see if it's not already taken or something super similar to it. Then if not, what you're going to do is to go over to where the top red arrow is pointing out, start a business, and then basically start a limited liability company. And you could click that button and it will actually take you through the entire process. Very, very, it's kind of a wizard, very friendly, user-friendly, fill in the information, who's involved. And most importantly, what the state really cares about is that you pay them the fee. So you do that usually online with a credit card. Very, very simple to do. Now, the second thing that you're going to do when you come to the end of the process, and as you can see on your screen, this is kind of the fee structure as of the beginning of 2024. But let's look at the very bottom one, the certificate of standing. All the certificate of standing says is that the company is operating in good standing. It's really a way for the state to collect a fee. Simple as that. So go ahead and pay it because the lenders are probably going to ask for it anyway. Now let's go over to the next website, and that's really irs.gov. This is where you're going to apply for your tax ID number, your employer identification number, your EIN number, if you've heard of that. Really, it's like a social security number for a business. That's it. It allows you to file tax returns on behalf of the business. The bank or the lender or whoever is going to need that form, and you're going to get it right from the website this is after you file your company and your articles with the state. Then you go to irs.gov. I'm showing you right here on the screen where you want to click, and follow it through the process. So you're going to set it up very, very simple. End of the process, they're going to give you the opportunity to download your SS4 form, which is just a letter that says, here's what your tax ID number is, your EIN number. You're going to want to save that. Do not lose it. You're going to use it not only to open up bank accounts, to borrow money, to do just a myriad of things. Save it in a safe place so that you can share that with the businesses that are going to require your EIN number. Definitely do that. Last but not least is probably the most complex document that you're going to see, and the one that you may need an attorney's help on, and that is the operating agreement. Now, I know a lot of people that are single member LLCs. They're setting it up just for themselves, or maybe it's a husband and wife, spouses doing it together. They'll do it on their own using, say, Law Depot or LegalZoom or whatever, and that's fine. Attorneys will tell you it's not fine. Here again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not trying to give you legal advice and tell you do it on your own. But I will give you this advice. Use an attorney if there's more than one unrelated party that's doing business together. And what I mean by that is if you get one of your friends, I don't care how good the relationship is, and you're going into business together, use an attorney to draft the operating agreement, because the operating agreement really does a lot of things. It says how you're going to operate, who has what power, who can sign bank accounts and checks, who can borrow money, who can enter and bind the company into a contract. It splits up what your ownership interests are, how profits are divided. And one of the most important things, we talked about high divorce rates earlier. It's just probably even worse for LLCs and S corps when they break up, is how do you dissolve and wind down the company? That's all in the operating agreement. And I've always said good fences build good neighbors. So, if you've got a neighbor over there, you get along fine, but if you start getting too much into each other's business or whatever, you want to have a good fence down the middle to protect you. And that's really what the operating agreement is kind of a fence. All lenders, banks, whoever that do business with you are going to want to make sure that you are authorized to do what you're doing with them, whether it's opening up a bank account, being a signer on a check, or borrowing money. They're going to want to make sure that you're allowed to do that, and they're going to want to see the fully executed operating agreement. If it's a single member LLC, it's just you on there, maybe you and your spouse, you probably get away with just doing it yourself through LegalZoom or Law Depot. If it is multiple member, though, meaning you and a couple of buddies or investors or whatever, I'm begging you, get an attorney involved and have them write that, because you really want something ironclad. Chances are things are going to go bad down the road and you're going to have some kind of dispute. You've got to have it written out in the beginning. Listen, all things end badly, otherwise they wouldn't end. That's why you need this, and that's why I would recommend an attorney do it if you've got more than one person that's involved. So let's go over what a lender is going to ask for again. Number one, we're going to want those articles of organization to see that you've actually filed at the state. Number two, and I'm going to skip down to the third thing here, is the certificate of standing, because that kind of goes along with the articles. Number three, you're going to get your EIN number, your tax ID number, kind of like your business social security number, so to speak, from the IRS. And you can get that letter right from the website for free. Very simple to do. Takes 30 minutes or so. Last but not least, most importantly, the operating agreement. Make sure that it is ironclad and that everybody has agreed to it. So anyway, if you have any questions, you can always reach me in the comments section down below. Happy to answer them for you. Hopefully you found this really, really helpful. And here again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not trying to advise you, give you legal advice, but hey, this is how we do it. And as lenders, those 4 items are what you're going to have to produce for us in order to borrow as an LLC. Thanks again.